On the long tier list of reasons why people struggle to get into or learn Yu-Gi-Oh!, snuggled somewhere comfortably between $1,000 decks and lengthy card texts, exists the realm of confusing cards. Cards that, despite managing to fit more than a tweet's worth of text into one, maybe two boxes, simultaneously manage to explain absolutely nothing about the heat they're packing. These opaque card effects betray the long-standing tradition of the power of reading your cards in favor of brute force rote repetition that, once again, makes the game a nightmare to get into. But let me explain it in a more simple way. It's one of the most strategy-testing, skill-based games of all time. Not Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, I'm talking about chess. The beauty of chess is that it's a deceptively simple game. In fact, many people learn chess at a very young age with the help of their very own super grandmaster, old family relative who doesn't speak great English. In chess, all the pieces move predictably, and its renowned depth comes from planning out long-winded strategies vying for positional or tactical advantage. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is nothing like that. Cards that seem to zig actually in fact zag, and the game, especially for a new or casual player, leans heavily towards knowledge instead of intuition. Take a card like Math Mech Superfactorial. Just by reading it, you know that it can special summon up to 3 Math Mech monsters, then special summon 1 Synchro or Xyz monster. What it doesn't tell you about is the devious Primathmech Laplacian that's about to rip a card out of your hand, send one of your monsters to the graveyard, and gain the following effect: when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can negate that effect. Looking back at what many would call the Yugi Boomer classical age, you see a bunch of cards that clearly spell out what they do. Draw 2 cards with Pot of Greed, target 1 monster on the field and destroy it. To be fair, simple cards do exist in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Baron de Fleur has a very straightforward, when a card or effect is activated, negate the activation and destroy it. Even some of the most vile, heinous, locked up for life cards have to-the-point effects. So it's not like the modern style of powerful card slinging relies on these opaque cards. But when appealing to new and even casual players, I think the problem becomes very clear. There's a certain cap to the transferable skills you can learn in Yu-Gi-Oh! You could sit down with your friend and play 100 Sword Soul Mirrors, honing the blade of Banishing for Cost with Taya, and chain blocking your searches with Moye. And yet they wouldn't be any closer to uncovering the terrors of what lies beyond a resolved branded fusion. This dread is further compounded by the presence of an ever-growing catalog of cards and archetypes, each having to show off their own flavor of wacky wombo combo to stand out among a game with over 11,000 cards. You know that sense of anxiety you feel when you start a new MOBA and you're presented with hundreds of unique characters, and you're worried because you didn't read the abilities of Bumbler Knight, and now you're getting incessantly flamed by your team in a language you don't understand. That's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like for the casual player, someone who doesn't log his mandated 100 service hours against Branded. Enjoying your time with the Dota cast? Well, guess what? We just imported the entire League of Legends roster, just for you. Better grab those reading glasses, sit down, and watch a 30-minute YouTube tutorial. To be fair, for anyone fully invested into Yu-Gi-Oh!, I think opaque cards are rad. Searching a trap card for your end board that both players know does exactly one thing isn't quite as interesting as setting Branded in red and threatening to summon Mirror Jade, or summon Guardian Chimera, or summon Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon. But a more casual player would not be able to appreciate that nuance since they're so busy reading up on the newest cards, since the unstoppable march of power creep just invalidated every deck that they've ever loved from the last time they logged in a few months ago. Now, in no way is a constantly evolving metagame and the lofty barrier of having to sit down and learn a pair of uniquely Yu-Gi-Oh! Problems, but considering Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the crossroads of eye-gougingly long card text, 10-minute instant win combo lines, oppressive turn skip floodgates, expensive must-play staples, okay, you get the idea. It becomes very clear that the casual duelist bears the brunt of the game's shortcomings. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is objectively thriving right now, but when the average duelist is locked in the eternal struggle of why their when did not, you gotta be at least somewhat concerned.